This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with the masterpiece Chris Masters, who was just victorious here in PCW Ultra here in LA. First of all, congratulations on your win tonight.
Thank you, Hannibal. How you doing?
Excellent. You faced Killer Kross tonight, one of the hottest prospects in wrestling. I watched the match. That could have been a pay-per-view WWE match easily. What's your status with the main companies? We haven't seen you for a while on TV.
There is no status, quite honestly. I mean, I've just been wrestling on the indies since about 2011 and loving it, man. I've been lucky enough to be booked on pretty much every continent and work fairly regularly still, whether it be here in PCW today, first time here, amazing promotion. I had a great time in Kross, one of the best young prospects in the industry, and then next week I'm going back to Germany and various other places. But I actually just moved from your neck of the woods. I was in Canada for 3 years, and I just migrated back here to California, back home, and all of a sudden there's this huge wrestling scene here. So that's been awesome, man. It's good to be back.
It is huge here, actually. This is probably a great place for you to return to. What were you doing up in Canada?
Freezing my ass off. But actually, I gave up on meeting good women out here in California, so I had to go all the way to your land of Canada to meet a good woman and pluck her out of there and bring her back over here with me. It just took a good 3 years. So it was a very nice country, but I'm not a big fan of Tim Hortons, I have to tell you.
I prefer Starbucks, actually, and I don't like the cold either. One of these days, I'm going to be moving to the West Coast as well. But you posted that video, or Rene posted a video of you guys at Tim Hortons together, and I guess he owed you some money or something he made up to you by buying Tim Hortons. What was that all about? Because the fans were all asking me.
Oh man, Rene placed some bet with me going back like probably well over a decade ago. You gotta understand, Rene and me were the youngest guys on the WWE roster. We were both about like 19. I was 19, he might have been 18 going on 19. So and funny enough as it is, Rene and me like never got along. Like we were always butting heads. Maybe it was a competitive thing or something like that, but it's cool now that there was that instance where you're talking about. I don't remember what the bet was actually, but I do remember Rene and me have had plenty of run-ins with each other, but now we're on good terms. I hung out with him in Germany last year actually for a whole week. Carlito came down. I think we made a video for you, and we're on good terms, man. Rene's in a much better place now in terms of just he's just so much easier to interact with. He's a little more peaceful.
I see you're still in same shape you're in pretty much in WWE. What are your workouts?
Close enough. What am I what?
Workouts like these days?
I try to get in the gym like 5 days a week for at least an hour to an hour and a half. And just to a lot of times, I mean, I still go to the gym for wrestling, but I get a lot of satisfaction of the way how I feel when I leave the gym, and in terms of just getting that done and getting your body moving. So a big part of my life. I don't think I can give that part up as much as I do wake up lazy as fuck sometimes.
What was your favorite part of your WWE run?
For me personally, it was just coming in there at that young age and then working alongside all of the guys I grew up kind of like idolizing. You know what I mean? I grew up idolizing all of those guys. I had Shawn Michaels in the locker room with me, and Ric Flair, and even just working with Val Venus when I got up there was like, it was just amazing, because you just go from a point where you're that young. Literally, it's just 5 years prior to that you're just literally a mark or a fan with posters on your walls and the figures and the tape collecting, and then just somewhere within that time span, all of a sudden you're amongst them, and that was very intimidating, but it was also like pinch myself every day type thing.
Who was the biggest guy you looked up to that you ended up wrestling?
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels.
Oh yeah, I've always thought and still think he's the best in-ring performer we've ever had, like in the ring. We've had bigger draws, obviously. We've had our Rocks and our Hogans and all that, but I grew up idolizing Shawn, so then when I actually got to the point where within my first year I was able to work that program with him right after his feud with Hogan was just a dream come true. I mean, you might as well have told me I was going to win the world title.
Now, was the Masterlock your invention, or was that one of the producers that gave that to you?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure on this, but I like to give the credit to Arn Anderson, because we were trying to come up with a finisher for me, and we had some other ideas. They were coming up with this idea of like a torture rack into a neck breaker, and some other, and just nothing was clicking. And then somebody came up with the idea of the full Nelson, and again, it seemed very simple. I didn't necessarily have faith that it was going to get over, because we were so used to guys doing these elaborate, crazy finishes. But you know, what's old is new, and they wanted to recondition the fans to kind of that old school thing. And like a full Nelson is a viable hold. I mean, if you torque the neck forward, you're going to turn purple, you're going to pass out. So it kind of worked out. So I'd like to thank Arn Anderson, and then Shawn and Hunter were very instrumental in like almost like doing what they're doing now. They were helping me develop the gimmick in terms of the posing routine. They probably had input on the finish as well. So you know, it's no surprise that they're doing what they do now, actually.
Did you ever watch Ken Batera matches to learn how he did it? 'Cause he was one of the guys that were known for that.
Oh yeah, I watched.
As well as Billy Jack Haynes, by the way.
Oh yeah. And then, so him, what was it, Hercules, then Warlord, obviously. Warlord was a huge, they didn't do it like Patera, but, and then, you know, I had to watch, you know, for Vince, I reminded him a lot of Paul Orndorff. So I ended up having to watch a lot of, not just those guys, but Paul Orndorff and Ravishing Rick Rude. And, you know, just get little things from those guys and see, you know, kind of, you know, he really wanted me to capture Paul Orndorff's intensity. But I was so young in the business, I didn't have that yet, you know what I mean? So it's funny, he was trying to get me to work with Paul, but just too green at that point.
All the guys now are known, well, not all of them, but some of them are known for dating the divas. Did you ever have any behind-the-scenes relationships?
You know what? I had some very short little flings, but I always kind of tried to keep, I didn't want to have a situation like some of my coworkers where I was dating a girl who was on the roster, and then that goes belly up, and then you have to see her every day and possibly hooking up with one of your peers. So I avoided doing anything serious. So most of the time I was in WWE, I was engaged the first time, and then the second time I had a girlfriend. So I tried to stay clear of that, because there's a lot of women you can see. It doesn't have to be one of your coworkers.
Right, and you left on, I guess, pretty good terms. I never heard it was any reason in particular, any screw up you did or anything like that. Did they tell you the door was open for the future? You're still a young guy.
Well, you know, like they didn't give me any reason to believe it wasn't, but at the same time, it's just, I think enough time has passed now where, you know, I wasn't necessarily happy with my second run. I'm sure they weren't happy with it. And so it's kind of like, I kind of equivalent it to like it's like a marriage that just kind of dissolved, you know what I mean? Like I don't have an ambition necessarily to go back, and I don't think they have any ambition to bring me. So just any ambition in the business doesn't really exist at this point. I'm trying to diversify in terms of what I do, and you know, wrestling is going to be here, and I've been doing it on weekends, but what else can I do to make money?
What else have you been doing?
I just started, you know, just coming back to LA. I used to do a lot of acting and commercial work and stuff like that, so I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of my good friend Carlito, who's been doing that lately, and you know, just pick up some extra work doing that, and then like some odd stuff. Like I've taken a course in financing and life insurance and annuities, so you know, I'm just trying to create multiple revenue streams, but wrestling is always going to be my number one love. Like I would do this until the end of time if I could, or until nobody will ever book me. I'll keep doing it because it's just I love it. I love it more than anything.
And we were talking about this off camera. René Dupree was a little mad lately because Jim Ross told a story that I guess was really about Sylvain Grenier. Just because I'm friends with René, could you confirm that that story was probably about Sylvain Grenier and not René?
Oh, regretfully, I can absolutely confirm that. I was telling you about this. I thought it was so funny, especially seeing you today, because that was just about a week ago that the hot story on the whole internet was about about René Dupree and what's his name, Pat Patterson having some like that was all of that was Sylvain Grenier, and it's funny, Jim Ross just completely flubbed it, and he said René Dupree by accident, and I can it put René in a real compromising spot, but I can everybody rest assured that was Sylvain Grenier and not René Dupree, as funny as that was.
I think with René's talent, if he was that close with Patterson, he probably would have lasted a little bit longer. But
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. René has no luck on these internet shows, man. That was one of the funniest flubs I've ever Jim Ross. But Jim Ross went on Twitter and clarified, so yeah, good for that.
Anywhere that people can follow you on social media if they want to look you up?
Yeah, on Instagram it's Chris Masters 310, and then on Twitter it's Chris Adonis, and that's only because I can only keep my verification by keeping that name through Impact Wrestling. So that's why that is Chris Adonis on Twitter.
How was your time in Impact Wrestling?
It was kind of a mess. I mean, it was nice when Jeff brought me in and everything, but I could tell very quickly that Scott D'Amore and none of the Impact Wrestling officials really had any kind of plans for me. And, they had me next to Eli, which Eli turns out to be one of the most awesome dudes I've met, who deserves everything he's got. But they just seemed like they had no foresight or any vision of anything to do for me. And then the money just wasn't enough to really come into work. So that was pretty much the end of my Impact Wrestling run.
Have you seen anything of AEW yet?
Little clips here and there. Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's just nice to have somebody like another promotion on such a mainstream cable network. I mean, it's like, it feels like the Monday Night Wars, seeing a wrestling program on TNT again. So I think that's awesome.
Did you ever wrestle either Jericho or Cody Rhodes with your time in WWE?
I wrestled Cody, not Chris. Chris and me were on the same cards together, but never booked with each other.
Okay. How was your match with Cody?
Oh, they were fine. You know what I mean? They were what they were. I mean, they weren't bad, nor were they super great. I remember one specifically where, we only had about 4 minutes and it was on a SmackDown. So, I mean, there's not much you can really take from a 4-minute match with a guy. I mean, it can run smooth and it can be a clusterfuck, but that was neither or. It was just, I think it just ran smooth actually. So, but I'm not tremendously close to, people ask me about AEW all the time. I'm not tremendously close with any of those guys in terms of being on a best friend level relationship or anything like that. So, that's why I don't necessarily think that I'll be getting any calls from AEW anytime soon.
What do you think about the trend lately? It seems to, in companies like PCW, going the other way, but it seems like in companies like AEW, 90% of the roster are 160 to 185 pounds. As one of the guys with one of the best physiques of the modern era, what do you think of this trend of the little guys all getting the jobs?
First of all, I like it that a lot of guys are getting opportunities that didn't, say, about 5, even 10 years ago. But I do think, like, for instance, today when you see a guy like Cross in an era where there's a bunch of guys like you're saying who look, either lighter or look much younger, Cross really stands out because he's a guy who, when he walks the ring, you believe he's an ass kicker. And so I don't know if it necessarily matters the size of the guys, but it is nice to see guys who you think can legitimately beat some ass out there and that you would legitimately be intimidated from. And I think that's something that the business is always going to need, on some level or another. So you can't just take out all those guys and put in a bunch of 150-pound high flyers. That's not going to work.
How did you get along with John Laurinaitis in WWE?
Nothing bad to say about him. I mean, he's an office guy and he has to obviously put in the calls sometimes when you're getting released and all that. And so a lot of people have negative reactions to him, but I mean, he's the same guy who picked up the phone and called me to hire me twice. So, I mean, it is what it is. When you're working the office or when you work for the office, you can't necessarily just be one of the boys.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us. I hope to get a full career interview with you one day, maybe at a future PCW show if you're going to be a regular here. Anything to close off this interview with?
I just want to say, Hannibal, it's been a pleasure. I've sat around my place and spent hours watching your videos, so I mean, it's a pleasure to be on here with you, and keep doing what you're doing, man, because I'm sure myself and all the other wrestling fans and viewers are loving it. So keep it up.